Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Honourable youth members, I want to acknowledge that we're gathered today on the land of Aboriginal people and pay my respects to elders past and present. We're very fortunate in this country of ours to have two of the world's oldest continuing living cultures in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, whose lands, winds and waters we all now share. Before moving on to our opening remarks from our Premier and Opposition Leader, I just wanted to say welcome to this Youth Parliament. It's a pleasure to be back in Toowoomba. I've been here on many occasions in this role and previous roles. You've got such a lovely part of the world, so we're very, very happy to be here. We've been into schools on the last 2 days, speaking with legal studies students and other students in high school. And of course, this is your opportunity as primary school students to shine. So we look forward to hearing your speeches. As you've heard already, there may be a timer, but it's there as a guide only. You feel free to give your speech, do it nice and slowly, carefully, and speak with confidence, and you're going to really enjoy today's Youth Parliament. I want to, ahead of time, thank our education team. I'll talk a bit more about them later on, but also welcome Jim McDonald, the member for Lockyer, who's here. Pat Weir, the member for Condamine, is also going to be helping us as a temporary speaker today, and Big Trevor Watts is going to be here a little bit later on, also opportuning the chair as well. So what we have here is we've got students from Back Plains State School, Drayton State School, Emu Creek State School, Gowrie State School, Greenmount State College, Mary MacKillop Catholic College, Peace Lutheran Primary School, and Tabinga State School. These schools make up my gut to the right. We also welcome schools making up the opposition, Darling Heights State School, Gumbunji State School, Rockville State School, Tent Hill Lower State School, and Toowoomba Anglican School. So, of course, as you've heard, make sure you give some encouragement to the speakers when they're on their feet. If you hear something that you agree with, or you just want to make sure that they know you're giving them your support. And of course, make sure that you should give everyone the opportunity and courtesy of listening to them their speech in full. I now declare the Youth Parliament open, and I call the Youth Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished guests and fellow peers. My name is Taylor. My vision for all the people in Queensland is affordable food, fuel, housing, health and education. I see careful land development and clean, litter-free environments for all of us. I think that the price of food, fuel, housing, health and education needs to be reduced, which will mean that there is less robbery, because when the prices go up, people cannot afford all they need. So sometimes they start stealing things. People also get sick if they are not eating properly, and so they need more doctor and hospital visits. That will make the hospitals and doctors very busy, and they will not be able to help all of those who need it. Fuel is getting way too expensive. Most cars in our state are using petrol or diesel, and currently it costs about $2 per litre. That means that it costs more than $100 to fill up their car. Housing needs to be more affordable. Some people are not able to buy their own house, and some people are not able to find houses to rent. That means there are more and more homeless people, which I find tragic. Education must be at a reasonable cost, because there are jobs that need training, and every person should have the chance to get their dream job. That means that each person has to pay for their training and may need help to afford it. Land development must be careful. The habitats of our animals must be respected. If there is land development at the edge of a city, there needs to be a study to find out what animals are living there, so they are not driven away or killed. There are ways we can help preserve the animals to prevent harm to them. We can also prevent harm to them by not littering. If people stop littering and start recycling, I believe it would make Queensland a better place. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. By the way, you are our tallest Youth Premier we've had. Well done. I call the Youth Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I would like to share with the House the topic of how I believe our great state could be improved. I believe that most Queenslanders have enough skill and energy to be able to lean towards their dream and not work at a job where they are unhappy. If they choose a job where they are happy, then they'll be able to set up their future and live your life to the fullest. I feel that it is important for young children to have a great start to their childhood, so it is vital that they have a great education system so they can go into qualified and knowledgeable adults. Children should also be encouraged to learn as much as they can. The better the education system is, the more responsible and dedicated they will be when they are older. I believe that teachers should be paid more because it would inspire more teenagers and young adults to become teachers. Better pay would give them a lot more inspiration to do a great job in the classroom. I also believe that most state schools should receive a lot more funding to provide the children in a number of ways, including equipment and supplies. I believe that one of the most important things about our state are our frontline workers, such as police, firefighters, paramedics, nurses and doctors. I especially believe this since both of my parents are paramedics. Essential workers work non-stop helping people in need, and not to mention the fact that throughout the coronavirus pandemic, while most people were at home in quarantine, frontline workers were still working and saving lives whilst putting their own lives at risk. These workers often work weekends and throughout the night, missing out on important family occasions, so their condition should be improved. I would like to finish by talking about the Indigenous culture of Queensland. I feel proud living in a state where Indigenous culture is recognised. It is important to honour the Indigenous peoples because they are one of the most ancient cultures on earth and they play a big part in not only Queensland but Australia's history. All Queenslanders should be given equal opportunities and the respect and honour that we all deserve. One Queensland, one Australia, one community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Youth Leader of the Opposition. I'm now going to hand over to the member for Lockyer, Phil McDonald, who's going to be looking at the first motion that will be considered by the House today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I call the Youth Minister for Transport.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this Youth Parliament supports that all new vehicles sold in Queensland must be electrically powered within the next 5 years, and that autonomous self-driving vehicles are banned from Queensland roads, and that all public transport should be made free to use for anyone living in a major metropolitan area. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on the motion that electric vehicles are the future of transportation. Here are some reasons why they should replace internal combustion engines in the next 5 years. There will be environmental benefits as electric vehicles emit less greenhouse gases than petrol vehicles, which help to reduce air pollution and combat climate change. Electric vehicles have lower operating costs than petrol vehicles as they require less maintenance and have lower energy costs. The technology behind electric vehicles is rapidly advancing, with improvements in battery range and charging infrastructure. This means that electric vehicles will soon be able to travel longer distances on a single charge, and charging times will be reduced. The shift towards electric vehicles is driving innovation in the automotive industry, leading to new technologies and advancements in battery storage and charging. By transitioning to electric vehicles, we can reduce pollution, save money, and drive innovation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the Youth Shadow Minister for Transport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The proposal that all new vehicles sold in Queensland must be electrically powered within the next 5 years may be beneficial to those who live in the city, but what about our rural Queenslanders? People in rural Queensland do not have the facilities to charge and maintain an electric vehicle, and if we go completely electric, it will also cause a huge dent and create an unnecessary mountain of waste. Research has shown that in Australia, only 2% of car sales equal to EV purchases, and on top of that, families trying to find an EV car have stated that battery manufacturing costs made it practically impossible to find a cheap EV. The cost of an EV charging station ranges up to $40,000, $1,000, either including or without installation. People living in rural Queensland are already struggling with the rising cost of living and the drought that's affecting their properties and farms. On top of this, there has also been a growing concern about how Australia's power grid will handle an increasing uptake of electric vehicles in the country. AMEC has just put out a series of documents that highlight the potential problems and call for submissions in the key stakeholders. They say that electric vehicles will boost demand for electricity and that Australia's power grid will not be able to withstand this need for power. We must ensure that all vehicles do not have to be electrically powered. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Shadow Minister. You give the real Shadow Minister a run for his money. I call the youth member for Barcoo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a member for Barcoo, I draw the attention of the House to the issue of autonomous driving vehicles. A total ban is essential. These vehicles are a hazard to the community and have limited room for errors. Imagine you're driving along and out of nowhere an old lady and a woman with a pram crosses the road in front of the car unexpectedly and creates a potential life-altering hazard. The automated car delivers a program response, and its computer decides who lives or dies. Automated cars are responsible for more than 50% more crashes. Over 400 crashes were caused by these death traps in 2022, and 392 crashes occurred in the last 11 months. A staggering $75 billion has been spent developing the technology of self-driving. This funding would be better spent on ending global poverty or providing life-saving healthcare. Autonomous vehicles must be banned.
Thank you, Youth. I call the youth member for Normanby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on the motion that all new vehicles sold in Queensland must be electrically powered within the next 5 years. If charging stations are to replace gas pumps, it will take more than 5 years to get enough charging stations to service that many more electric cars when people have to travel a long distance and the new car is running out of charge. What can they do? If there's an emergency and there's no charging stations, what can they do? What will happen when we have to dispose of the diesel and petrol? We will have to put it somewhere and that can make the world worse. What will happen when we no longer use petrol or diesel, but people still own cars that use diesel or petrol? What can they do? I think the motion of 5 years is too early to have all new cars electrically powered. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, youth member. I call the youth member for Amity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am the youth member for Amity, and today I'll be discussing the need for new vehicles to be electronically powered within the next 5 years. I wholeheartedly agree with this because electric cars don't produce smoke, which makes them eco-friendly. Having eco-friendly cars means that the environment stays healthy. If the environment is healthy, it is better for the animals because it won't impact the animals' habitat. It will also be beneficial because electric cars have a smoother car ride, which will be better for injured or disabled people, because if the car makes a sudden stop, it doesn't make the passenger lurch forward. In conclusion, new vehicles within the next 5 years should be electronically powered. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, youth member. I call the youth member for Myrtle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Self-driving cars are safer than normal cars, they have cheaper fuel costs, and there would be an improvement in air quality and a reduction of harmful emissions. I will be elaborating on the first reason, that they are safer than regular cars. To begin, if we keep self-driving cars on Queensland roads, there would be less traffic deaths. The United States Department of Transportation believes that the rise in traffic deaths will decrease drastically if there are self-driving cars on Queensland roads. In 2017, it was reported that 37,133 people died in traffic deaths. This is an alarming number of deaths that can be prevented, as 94% of those deaths were caused by human error. Self-driving cars do not make common errors, so the traffic deaths would be decreased by 90%. This means we could be saving 30,000 lives per year. Due to their safety advantages over normal cars, self-driving cars will save lives. We cannot dismiss this fact because of fear of technological advances. Self-driving cars will not only reduce the amount of traffic deaths that occur each year. Autonomous cars will also lower petrol prices and they improve air quality. We must ensure that these vehicles stay on our roads, or we will never see the incredible benefits. Keep self-driving cars on Queensland roads. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, youth member. I call the member for Ithaca.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm the youth member for Ithaca, and today I will be talking about how buses should be free in metropolitan areas. It is because a lot of people spend a lot of money on buses to get to certain places in their life. By making public transportation free, you could save a lot of people's money. And some neighbourhoods and communities rely on public transport because they might not have a vehicle of their own. Places such as Luxembourg, Germany and Birmingham have successfully introduced free public transport since 1997. In conclusion, I would like to make all buses free in metropolitan areas in Queensland. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak today, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, youth member. I call the youth member for North Pine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on the motion that autonomous self-driving vehicles are banned from Queensland roads. I believe we need self-driving cars in the future as it will assist with limiting our death tolls on Australian roads. Self-driving cars would eliminate drunk driving accidents and reduce all accidents with young P-plate drivers. It's estimated self-driving cars can reduce accidents by up to 90%. All factories should be building only autonomous self-driving cars to ensure we can bring the death tolls down on Australian roads. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. This very exciting members of the opposition over there. I call the youth member for Acacia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to speak in support of the motion that all autonomous vehicles should be banned from Queensland roads. All vehicles need to be under human control. I believe that current autonomous technologies are not trustworthy enough to control a car safely. Roads are extremely dangerous and are not safe enough without human control and judgment of a human being behind the wheel. Journeys are longer on average in Australia than in smaller countries, and the quality of our roads is questionable to say the least. We have extreme weather, extreme wildlife, and extremely poor roads, which means autonomous vehicles on Queensland roads would put the lives of Queenslanders at risk every single day. A further question is who would be responsible for damage or injury caused by a driverless vehicle? Would an owner be liable if an autonomous vehicle malfunctioned and harmed or killed someone? Could a child be in charge of an autonomous vehicle? Mr. Speaker, the question we must ask ourselves today is, would you be comfortable putting your close friends or family members into a vehicle without him in control and waving them goodbye? Would you be the slightest bit worried about their welfare? If so, then I urge you to support the motion that all autonomous vehicles should be banned from Queensland roads. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, youth member. My goodness, great contribution from a potential former, well, future member from Lockyer. Right? I'll call the youth member from Ardoo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All public transport should not be made free for anyone living in major city areas. This is an outrageous claim. It is costly to the government and unfair for our valuable tax-paying rural citizens. First of all, to make transport free will be a huge expense for the government. Giving all Australians access to free public transport for 1 year would cost the federal budget $2.2 billion, according to an independent costing agent. This is due to the need to pay for registration, general maintenance of vehicles, and petrol. In addition, how we can justify the expense to our rural citizens? It is utterly unfair for rural areas. A large population of our state are low to medium income earners on under $700 per week. With this money, they are expected to pay for bills, groceries, and travel expenses. How can we justify their tax dollars being spent making public transport free in cities? All public transport should not be made free because it is costly to the government and too unfair for rural citizens. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, youth member. I call the youth member for Daintree.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support the Transport Minister's notion that public transport should be free in all metropolitan areas. Firstly, it would encourage people not to drive, which would result in less air pollution coming from the cars. Secondly, making public transport free would help people save money, encouraging them to spend money to boost the economy. Thirdly, it would cause less traffic congestion and air pollution in the city. There would be fewer cars on the road, reducing traffic jams and lowering emissions of greenhouse gases, contributing to a healthier environment. In conclusion, all public transport should be made free in metropolitan areas. Thank you.
Thank you, youth member. I call the youth member for Passmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on the motion that all public transport should be made free to use for anyone living in major metropolitan areas. I disagree with this motion. If all public transport in major cities was made free, then major cities would have less money to spend on other infrastructure, such as military and other small businesses. I believe everyone benefits when people can travel around freely, but making public transportation might marginally increase demand, but it's not going to solve the fundamental problem that all public transportation systems don't have money. The cost of public transport helps to provide funding for the training and services of professional drivers and the upkeep of equipment. So let's say no to free public transport. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, youth member. I call the youth member for Belyando.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on the motion that autonomous self-driving vehicles must be banned from Queensland roads. These self-driving vehicles will no doubt make Queensland roads dangerous and crowded. In the using of these vehicles, greenhouse gas emission levels are rising, causing climate change to get worse and threaten all species. Australia already produces 465.9 million tonnes of greenhouse gas without these autonomous self-driving vehicles adding to it. Every year, these cars add an additional 0.14 gigatons. We have already produced more than 4 times the amount of Argentina, with the numbers consistently increasing. Although they provide an easier transport, they are destroying our Earth and trapping heat, causing summers to consist of more terrifying fires. In conclusion, autonomous self-driving vehicles should be banned from Queensland roads to better the air we breathe, the world we live in, and reducing climate change. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Balloon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the motion that all new vehicles in Queensland must be electrical powered within the next 5 years. Electrical powered vehicles in Queensland should be the norm. There are a range of benefits to driving electric vehicles. These include reduced fuel cost and higher efficiency, less maintenance, fuel security, reduced traffic noise, and air quality improvements. To ensure this is achieved, there are key points to consider in ensuring success. There needs to be an increase in number of charging points available, especially in rural and remote drivers. Charging stations need to be environmentally sustainable. We need to find ways to deal with electric vehicles and their components at the end of their useful life. Having all new vehicles sold in Queensland electrically powered will be great for Queensland and great for the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. I call the youth member for Canungra.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I agree with Transport Minister's motion to ban all self-driving cars on Queensland roads. Self-driving cars are dangerous because they can crash and endanger the driver, passengers, and other occupants in the vehicle on the road. They can take you the wrong way and get you lost, causing confusion for motorists. Electrical faults can cause a failure of autonomous driving system. They cannot anticipate human behavior, which could put the occupants in a dangerous situation. There is potential for the vehicle's computer system to be hacked, especially if a large number of cars share the same network. Self-driving cars could cause serious issue for the environment, roadways, and human lives. Thank you.
Thank you, youth member. I call the youth member for Bold.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Do you really want to spend your hard-earned money on public transport? Well, I know I'd rather spend it on food or save up for valuable things like a house. The government needs to permanently make public transport free so our society can stop spending hundreds of dollars a month on public transport. Did you know the average person spends around $50 a week on public transport? In a month, that adds up to over $200. If we make public transport free, more people in urban areas will use it, and this will benefit the environment and bus companies. You must consider this and make public transport in urban areas free. We all have great challenges and great opportunities, and with the help of the government, we can make our society better. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I call the youth member for Bloomfield.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I draw the attention of the House to the matter of public transport being too costly. Public transport should be free for anyone living in a major metropolitan area, therefore decreasing the need for fuel in personal vehicles and limiting the levels of carbon dioxide emissions. In the making of fuel, greenhouse gases are released into the atmosphere, creating global warming. It has been proven that Australians use around 51 litres of fuel a year, a number that could majorly be reduced by increasing public transport usage. Studies have shown that carbon emissions would decrease by 45% if public transport was used more in Queensland. To ensure the government doesn't lose significant money from making public transport free, I propose we add a 2% increase to each person's tax for the next 5 years. In conclusion, in order to protect the environment from further damage, public transport should be free in all major cities of Queensland. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I call the youth member for Ballindine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am the youth member for Balladine, and today I will be speaking about how cars and all vehicles sold in Queensland must be electrically powered within the next 5 years. My first reason is that vehicles that run on fuel pollute the air. If we want to slow down global warming, then we should convert to electricity. My second reason is that fuel is expensive. On that note, cost of living is going up, which makes it hard to keep our cars fueled. My third reason is that electric cars are smaller, which may not be good for road trips or moving, but we can work to make them bigger. My final reason is that fuel can be used for other things. One thing that fuel can be used for other than vehicles are generators. My reasoning for this is generators can be used to power the electric cars if we really need to. I hope places in Australia and around the world will do the same as us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Youth Member. I call the Youth Member for Basalt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support the Transport Minister's notion that the latest vehicles in Queensland must be electrically powered within the next 5 years. For example, if you're currently using an electric-powered vehicle, you're reducing air pollution around the environment, which will keep Queensland clean and healthy. So the Transport Minister is certain that everyone living in Queensland will have an own electric car between 2023 and 2028. Once he speaks to major car companies in Queensland that already have electric cars available. If you do not, replace your gasoline-powered car with an electric car one before 2023 to ensure a healthy environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Strong contribution from the member for Basalt. I'll call a Youth Member for Adeline.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am pleased to support the motion that all public transport should be made free for anyone living in a major metropolitan area. Think about the money his family could save. Think about the benefits for the environment and think about the positive effect on mental health. Why do people have to lose so much money just to go to work or school? This money could be used for greater things like bills and housing. If public transportation was free, it would take a lot of pressure off families struggling financially. Another benefit is that our air won't get as polluted. There will be less cars on the road, which should lead to less car crashes and traffic. If people living in a major metropolitan area had a chance to use public transport for free, they would have time to relax and listen to music because they wouldn't be so focused on the traffic. Happier people could lead to a better future for society. For these reasons, public transport should be made free for anyone living in a major metropolitan area. I trust you will agree with me and support this worthwhile initiative.
Thank you, Youth Member. Another strong contribution. I call the Youth Member for Bakara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm the youth member of Bokara and I'm pleased to support the motion to ban self-driving vehicles from Queensland roads. They are dangerous, unpredictable and do not belong on Queensland roads. These vehicles lack human ability to predict and assess risk quickly. With this comes a risk of crashing into street signs, other vehicles and at worst, people. The risk of a fire is much higher in these vehicles because they use so many batteries to run, and with this comes the risk of thermal runaway. Another risk would be hacking and cyber attacks. If a hacker can enter the system, these vehicles could become instruments of terror. AAA revealed in May 2022 that 85% of people are still fearful and unsure of self-driving technology. They also provide a report from the insurer that self-driving vehicles cause 50% more accidents than human-driven vehicles. So we must ban these cars from our roads so we can feel safe once again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Youth Member. Is there anyone on the speaking list that I've not called? If not, the question is that the motion moved by the Youth Minister for Transport be agreed to. Those of that opinion say aye. Those against? No? No. I think the ayes have it.
Divide.
Ring the bells. A division has been called.
31 noes, Mr. Speaker.
The question, thank you. Thank you very much. The question is that the motion be agreed to, for which a division has been called. I call on the government whip to act as teller for the ayes and the opposition whip to act as teller for the noes. Will the government whip please advise what the government votes are for the ayes or noes?
58 ayes, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Will the opposition whip advise what the opposition votes are for the ayes and noes?
31 noes, Mr. Speaker.
Great work. Honourable youth members, the result of the division is ayes 58, noes 31. The division is resolved in the affirmative. Well done, youth members. Before I vacate the chair, can I just take the opportunity to say thank you to all the teachers and the schools for participating in this, and also parents and supporters for being here. It's a wonderful thing, but especially to the students for having a go and participating in the fundamentals of our democracy, which is Parliament. And I know there's some great leaders out there, some leaders of the future. So thank you very much. It's a pleasure for us to be able to participate. We look forward to the rest of the day. Thank you. I'd like to hand over to my colleague, the member for Condamine, who's now going to act as the Speaker. Welcome, Pat. And I'd also like to recognise Mr. Speaker being here in Toowoomba and the education team for the great job you do. Thank you.
Rightio. Thank you. And as former Speaker said, I'm the member for Condamine, and I will chair this private member's statements. So, first speaker is the youth member for Wentworth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Back Plains is different from all the other schools, but fantastic and small. At Back Plains, for the end of the year, we have a graduation. But this isn't your usual graduation. We also do a play. The reason for doing this is because it adds joy and playfulness into the night. On this night, we also say farewell to the Year 6s that depart to high school. They are presented with a memory book with messages and photos that teachers have been taking since they were on prep. Every student and teacher writes a note in each book. As a part of the night, a slideshow is composed for each graduate. Another outstanding thing at Back Plains is the amazing math race. This occurs every Wednesday. The teachers give a clue to the students that they then follow and solve a maths problem. The race is a fun way to learn math, but also practice teamwork, persistence, leadership, and solving problems as they come up. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. And I think I will be at Back Plains at the end of the year too. You serve me right. I now call the youth member for Raven.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'd like to share with the House my concerns. I'm concerned that with our state's low police population, our crime rate will rise substantially and crime will get out of hand over the next few years. Crimes such as car stealing, house invasions, and attacks on people are a severe problem at the moment and should be handled right away. Not only is it bad for the safety and publicity of our state, but also for our constituents. Our state is in trouble and we need to save it. I suggest that we promote more roles and positions within our police department. This solution to the problem will provide better jobs, better services, and better lifestyle. I hope that if this problem, the current crime rate, is fixed, we'll have a better, more brighter future for Queensland. Our lifestyle depends on our police as our security. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I now call the youth member for comment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I stand to you as a youth member for comment, and I would like to share with the House an issue in Queensland, the lack of affordable housing. In this state, known for being beautiful one day, perfect the next, and having a stunning landscape, it is terrible to see a fellow being like us lying on a park bench without a home. Homelessness is not a choice. It is something that can affect anyone, no matter their background. It's time for us to take a stand in society. Affordable housing is not something that we want, it's something we need as a basic human right. No one should be shivering in the cold without a home, no matter their background or who they are. This is why I'm committed to ensuring every Queenslander has a home or somewhere to stay. We shall take this idea of affordable housing and put it into place and create policies that enable all Queenslanders to own a home and have a brighter future. Let us remember what a great state we are and show that we're not just known for our stunning landscapes, but how we take care of anyone, anywhere. This idea should be put into place. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Call the youth member for Pioneer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand before you today to address a pressing concern that affects our community's environment and collective well-being: the issue of littering. Fines for littering are up to $4,000, yet people still litter. Litter significantly diminishes the visual appeal of public places, parks, and natural areas. This flawless act is a problem that demands our immediate attention. Research shows 8 million tons of plastic waste ends up in the ocean every year. That's 1,500 kilos of junk per Australian each hour. Businesses are starting to act with stopping one-use plastics, and individuals are using recycling bins. However, the tons of litter collected on Clean Up Australia Day show that the issue of littering continues to affect our environment, public health, the economy, and the overall quality of life in our communities. It is imperative that we take more effective measures to address this problem and ensure a cleaner, healthier, and more prosperous future for all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Call the youth member for Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Littering is described as an unlawful deposit of any type of waste material of an amount less than 200 litres in volume. Littering poisons our environment and takes away the enjoyment and value of our public place for people and visitors. Littering can block waterways and stormwater drains, increasing the potential for flooding. It can also harm wildlife, spread diseases, harm people and livestock. Whilst driving to our local tip, the amount of rubbish on the side of the road as you get closer to the tip is concerning for the reasons above. We must support the local council to look at ways to improve the way rubbish can be contained to ensure our beautiful country stays clean. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Youth member for Palmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We must have more green spaces in Toowoomba. Good morning. I'm the member for Palmer. Today, I will state the benefit green spaces have on mental health and the importance of having trees to provide shade and help cool the air in urban areas. To begin, having greenery will benefit our community's physical health. The US Forest Service states the essential benefits of having greenery. They suggest it will help prevent pollution in the air, people will have better lung function, and most importantly, plants provide oxygen. Studies show that the carbon dioxide that we exhale will be transferred to the vegetation and the plants will convert it into oxygen for us to breathe. Having green spaces in Toowoomba has countless benefits for the community. By creating parks, rehabilitating greeneries around cities, and planting more vegetation, local residents will live a happier and healthier life. If you make an effort in the community to add green spaces in Toowoomba, the vegetation will benefit mental health, provide a decent amount of shade for people to relax and unwind, thus making them spend more time outside. Research suggests this is a key factor in improving mental health. Mental health will be improved by creating more parks in the community. Thank you for listening, and I hope you consider this urgent request from the Toowoomba region.
Good. Youth member for Isaac.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As Youth Member for Isaac, I am honoured to speak about the 2023 Carnival of Flowers. The parade was beautiful with floats travelling across Harry Street, Ruthven Street and finishing at Queen's Park. The community fair had roller coasters, Ferris wheels and other entertainment for children. The bands played an excellent selection of music and the city's gardens were well prepared, with many gardens in full bloom. I acknowledge the Toowoomba Regional Council and their workmen for the excellent preparation and support of this community event that brings many tourists to this region and showcases the beauty of Toowoomba. Thank you.
Youth member for Pimpama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I would like to share with the House puppy farming in Toowoomba. Dogs in puppy farms are given little to no healthcare and can be permanently restricted to cages. These cages are usually overfilled in unhygienic environments. The people responsible for these puppy farms do not even care because their main motive is money from the sale of these puppies. The dogs who are used to constantly breed and give birth to these puppies and also do not get time to recover before being forced to breed again. While these farms are still receiving money from people buying puppies, they'll continue to neglect these animals. The solution for this problem is for people wanting a dog to firstly go in a dog from RSPCA and the likes first. If they are wanting a purebred dog, they need to make sure they are not purchasing a puppy from a puppy farm. This only takes a couple of minutes to research the breeder history and to visit and see that the dogs are treated humanely. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, member for Kedron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a member for Kedron, I would like to raise the issue of the lack of public transport experienced in our rural area. The lack of public transport increases social isolation within our community. Some children are not getting educated because there are no buses to transport them to school. Lack of public transport also means people don't have easy access to healthcare centres and shops. Retirees and senior citizens need public transport as some can no longer drive. The government needs to provide more public transport in rural areas to enable children education in a school setting, retirees access to doctors and shops, and allow residents to connect with family and the community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Rainbow.
Honourable Members of Parliament, I want to highlight the critical importance of swim lessons and the need for government action. Drowning remains a leading cause of death, already claiming 281 lives this year. Swimming isn't just a recreational activity, it's a fundamental life skill. It empowers individuals to prevent water-related emergencies and save lives. To encourage more people to learn to swim, we must make these lessons accessible to all. While the government does allocate a small amount per child for school swim lessons, this isn't sufficient for comprehensive learning, and many parents still face financial barriers. This is a significant issue that must be addressed. The Queensland Government currently does not provide financial support for private swim lessons for primary-age kids, leaving underprivileged children without this life-saving skill. It's imperative that we ensure every child and adult has the opportunity to learn to swim so it can prevent tragic drowning incidents. I implore the Queensland Government to allocate more resources to support swim lessons, making them universally accessible and safeguarding the lives of our citizens. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah. Call the youth member for Jardine.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am the member for Jardine, and today I will be discussing youth crime. I believe that we should have more punishments for youth criminals, such as sending them west to work with cattle, and telling them that they can get help if they want it, and that they don't need to do what they are doing. There has been a study showing that there is 1,920.4 people, which is 20% of our community, that are youth criminals. I think the government should put cameras and alarms everywhere so that if or when something happens, you can press that button or alarm so it sends a notification to the police and sends them your location. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Call the youth member for Paru.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Youth crime has unfortunately been on the rise here in Toowoomba. Local and state government authorities have joined forces to combat this issue. For example, Toowoomba and Gundawindi received $740,000 under the state government's Community Partnership Innovation Grants. Other strategies include the introduction of extreme high visibility police patrols and the Youth Corresponder Team initiative. Despite all these efforts, violent crimes and car thefts have increased to the point that residents are living in fear with baseball bats under their beds. I proposed a solution of early intervention by getting rid of bad influences, whether they are in schools, on the streets, or even at home. Our failure as a society is not that punishment isn't harsh enough. Rather, our failure is that children aged 12 are committing such serious crimes. To make early intervention a working solution, youth gangs should be a government priority. With family members that are doing crimes, children will need to have easy access to counselling, whether that being in schools or in and amongst the community. Prevention will lead adolescents on the right path because they'll have no knowledge on how to steal cars, sell drugs, or break into homes. So this urgent matter of youth crime must be managed with early prevention, but children will need to have others to help them. As an old saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. Thank you.
I call the youth member for Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will be discussing the need for a better hospital in the Lockyer Valley. The Lockyer Valley is an ever-growing community, and with the population increase comes an increased need for a bigger and better hospital. The current population of the Lockyer Valley is approximately 42,625 people, yet our local hospitals only have a maximum of 25 beds. Our current hospitals also have limited resources and equipment, and in many circumstances, patients need to be transferred to surrounding hospitals for treatments. This then increases the strain on the healthcare system in other communities. These larger hospitals are between 30 to 45 minutes away and are already feeling the pressure of the current health crisis. With such limited resources, our community is crying out for easier access to services such as mental health, maternity and oncology, which all require a referral to a larger hospital. Mayor Tanya Milligan said, "We've been crying out for an extra service capacity to cope with catchment demand." About the need for more hospital beds or a new hospital in the Lockyer Valley. I strongly believe that the expansion and upgrade of our local hospitals would dramatically improve the healthcare in the Lockyer Valley, which in turn would relieve some of the pressure on surrounding larger hospitals, and also create more jobs and opportunities for our growing region. Please join me in trying to solve this healthcare crisis. Thank you.
Call the youth member for Spinifex.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I draw the attention of the House to the youth crime epidemic sweeping across Toowoomba. The youth crime is resulting in injuries or even death of some victims. The youth of today need to take responsibility for their own actions as they are the future of Toowoomba. They should experience consequences to teach them a lesson and result in positive behaviour. For consequences, I would recommend sending these misguided youths out into the country to work for food and water to teach them a lesson. If they don't abide, they won't be rewarded until they do so. Sending these youths to work away from the negative influences may help reform their behaviour. When placed in juvenile detention, the gangs grow and they learn new skills from other youth. They one-up each other thinking it's cool to re-offend when they are released and post it on social media. If the government and magistrates can make this happen, Toowoomba will be a lot safer and families can grow feeling safe from this crime. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Call the youth member for Esmeralda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I've come here to share a vision of social housing shortage in the Esmeralda region. I've been speaking to our local council about the current social housing shortages. The council mentioned they may build a 5-megawatt solar farm. The energy produced from this solar farm will be on-sold to an energy company. The profits raised from this project will be rediverted to their social housing project. This project is to deliver units and houses for low-income earners. They're hoping that people who earn low income will be able to stay at the newly built units for a while. In conclusion, the social housing shortage is a concern. Thank you.
Very good. I call the youth member for Toowoomba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'd like to share with the House the importance of inter-school sport at school.
There are a lot of schools that have stopped inter-school sport, but at Darling Heights and a number of schools in Toowoomba, we are still fortunate to have this available. Inter-school sport supports many key values needed in the lives of our students. This program allows students to travel off campus to practice in sports against other students from other schools within Toowoomba, with participation and sportsmanship the main focus. I believe the program is so important, teaching us kids values within sport and everyday life, including resilience, respect, participation, teamwork, and responsibility. Inter-school sport is also important in maintaining the health of our students, not just physical but mental health. Not everyone is good at school, but everyone can have a go at sport and enjoy being part of a team. Inter-school sport also gets kids outside in the fresh air and in nature. I would like to reinforce the importance of this fantastic program and hope it continues in the future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I would call the youth member for Diamantina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to inform the House of house plot sizes in Diamantina being far too small. Think of all the health benefits of having a large to medium-sized block of land. For example, the development near Diamantina Sport Park has a proposed 93 plots in an area of 41,500 meters squared. That means each plot will only be 446 meters squared, or roughly 1 3/4 of the average tennis court. Secondly, an area this small has little to no room, which can really impact our pets' health. Putting pets in this undersized block of land would make them like caged animals at a depressing circus. With pets out of the picture, who will teach our children responsibility and push them to exercise? Finally, the physical house size decreases dramatically, forcing many tenants to sell certain family belongings that may not fit in their new place. To conclude, I propose we make house blocks larger for the health and well-being of the people of Diamantina. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Paragon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As youth member for Kurrajong, I am delighted to speak about my local community's Gala Sporting Days in a community that is divided by great distance. It is wonderful to see local schools working together to provide sporting opportunities for our next generation of sports stars and athletes. This could be the future of the 2032 Olympics in our backyard. Our community caters for netball, rugby league, soccer, swimming, and athletics, and I encourage the government to continue to fund sporting opportunities for all of our students across Queensland so that our 2032 Olympics are a gold rush.
I call the youth member for Cola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm the youth member for Colin, and today I will be discussing the lack of clean water for farmers and/or people that live out of farms. We need to act now because they deserve better. Let's come together and put more pipes underground leading out to farms. If you put more pipes with clean water, it will improve the health of farmers and the supply of good and healthy food. Germs are a problem on farms, in cities, in the outback, and many other places over the world. If we get clean water out to farms, it's easier for them to bathe and wash their hands and keep hygienic. Farmers also use this water to grow crops and plants, such as wheat, vegetables, and fruit. I would like you to remember that that's their lives, their jobs, and it's how they make money and survive. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Call the youth member for Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to speak on the topic of the fire ant problem. Fire ant eradication program is important as it protects our sport grounds, schools, and parks from fire ant infestation. Stings from fire ants can cause painful, burning, or itching sensations, which can last up to 1 hour. They are also very, very bad for the environment as their stings affect our precious wildlife.
Fire ants were first detected in Queensland at the Port of Brisbane in 2001. Despite efforts to contain fire ants, they are continuing to spread. In fact, they have been found as far west as Highfields on the Darling Downs. A 10-year eradication plan is in place spanning over the southeast Queensland areas, including the Lockyer Valley. However, we cannot rely only on the current fire ant eradication program. We need to do more to involve all levels of government, local, state and federal, as well as the community and individuals to prevent fire ants from spreading. Surely you agree that more must be done to stop this menace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Etna.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Homelessness is a major concern for the state. The Bureau of Statistics show Queensland has 20,000 people homeless. That is 1 for every 200, and that is just the recorded figure. In 2021, close to 200 people accessed support to find accommodation in the Etna region. Many factors have played part in forcing individuals and families into homelessness. One of these factors can be attributed to very wealthy investors who own numerous investment properties and taking advantage of current market forces by pushing up rental prices in big cities, forcing more and more into rural areas, and that's not enough housing. Where there's not enough housing. Just take a moment to really think about this statement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Elliot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Zach O'Connor and I am the youth member for Elliot. Today I would like to draw the attention of the House to the appearance of the southern snapping turtle on the critically endangered list. The southern snapping turtle, also known as the white-throated snapping turtle, is native to Australia in the habitat of Elliot River, south of Bundaberg in Queensland. The southern snapping turtle is one of the largest species of shelled turtles in the world. The main cause of its endangerment is loss of eggs through predation, both feral and native, and egg trampling by cattle, resulting in a 1% survival rate of the next generation becoming adults. As a solution to this, I propose that there should be safe spaces added to riverbanks so their eggs can't be trampled on. I suggest these safe spaces should be inaccessible to cattle, predators and humans unless government authorisation is given. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very good. Is there anyone on the speaking list that I have not called? Okay, just before we break for morning tea, that was a great range of subjects there. It was just like a real private member statement. When you do a speech like that, you've got to do a lot of research, and so you'll learn a lot about the subject you may not have known. So congratulations, well done to all of you. I hope you have a great day here, and congratulations and well done to the school and school teachers for making the students part of this. Have a great day. The House will now adjourn for morning tea.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Just before we get into the formalities, I'll introduce myself. I'm Trevor Watts. I'm the member for Toowoomba North, and very pleased to be here. Now, my first job is to call the Youth Shadow Minister for Information Technology.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this Youth Parliament supports that a curfew will apply to all internet-connected devices for students in Queensland primary schools. Students will not have access to the internet or social media sites after 5 p.m. and before 7:30 a.m. 2. That Year 6 primary school students must attend homework clubs to be facilitated by their school for a minimum of 3 afternoons a week. 3. That 20% of student work, the equivalent of 1 day per week in Year 6, should be self-directed and completed online. Honourable Members of Parliament, implementing internet curfews will specifically address the concerning use of social media platforms by children. While these platforms offer numerous advantages, it is vital that we recognise the potential downsides, especially with young, impressionable children. Excessive use of social media can lead to screen addiction, disrupt sleep patterns, and affect overall well-being. Responsible and limited use of social media by children is essential. Many young children may not fully grasp the concept of online privacy, potentially putting themselves at risk by sharing personal information or engaging with strangers. Increased unsupervised use of social media sites also increases chances for cyberbullying. It is our duty to protect children from harm. We must strike a balance between allowing access and protecting our children from potential harm with the implementation of internet curfews or guidelines and by promoting digital literacy and safety education. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I call the Youth Minister for Information Technology.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on the opposition motion of internet use by students. We should not let Year 6 study 20% online or self-directed, as during this time they could be exposed to cyberbullying. According to research papers by ECU, 56% of young Australians have been cyberbullied or are getting cyberbullied. If Year 6 spend 20% each day online, cyberbullying will increase. Although this could only be seen as 20%, it will still hurt many young Australians mentally. Year 6 will not be able to focus on their schoolwork and will go onto other sites that might not be targeted for their age group. These websites can hurt them even more. This proposed mandate can cause some serious negative effects on the victim, leading to self-harm, harassment. For these reasons, we must not allow 20% self-directed online study to Year 6 work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I call the Opposition Whip, Youth Member for Mulga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to inform the House of the importance of children in primary school knowing how to work phones, laptops, iPads, etc., because the future is going to be further filled with smart technology than ever. This will also be like stepping stones up to high school, since they use laptops in almost every class. Looking into this, I advise that 20% of schoolwork should be done over the school intranet. This is because students will also need knowledge in different types of computer science, including graphic designing, coding, and much more. Nowadays, doctors, cashiers, scientists, engineers, architects, and many more jobs now use technology as an alternative instead of pens and paper. Using technology would be much more productive than writing on paper. This is why I consider that 20% of school work should be self-directed and completed online. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the Youth Member for Chester.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In my opinion, there should not be a Wi-Fi curfew from 5 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. for Queensland primary school students. The students may need to use apps to help them in important ways. What if the students need to study or find answers for homework? What if they need the internet to help them with their mental health? Many parents already have rules to be when their kids should be on or off the Wi-Fi. Some students live on a farm, and especially in summer, they need to do jobs, and by the time they're done, it's already past 5 p.m. They won't get the time they need in the Wi-Fi. In summer, the sun goes down around 7 p.m, so when kids go inside, they won't be able on the Wi-Fi until after 7:30 a.m. the next morning, when most kids are starting to get ready for school. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the Youth Member for Parabina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am pleased to support the motion that Year 6 primary school students must attend homework clubs to be facilitated by their school for a minimum of 3 afternoons a week. The initial reason why this motion would be beneficial for Year 6 students is that a homework club would ensure students get their homework finished and that they will have the ability to engage with other students and ask questions if they are finding the task difficult. In addition to this, they will be able to complete their homework in a quiet, calm, and peaceful environment, as well as allow students to learn how to complete homework more efficiently leading into high school. Therefore, as you have heard, homework clubs will help set up Year 6 students to be successful in their learning journeys throughout secondary school and beyond. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the Youth Leader of the House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The proposed legislation for Year 6 homework clubs, a minimum of 3 afternoons a week, is well intentioned but has little consideration for different needs of students and families. Families already juggle a range of activities like swimming lessons, football, music lessons, or specialist appointments. When will they make time for these important things if they are expected to be at homework clubs every afternoon? What will happen to our future sports stars? What will happen to our future magicians? And most importantly, what will happen to the mental and social well-being of these young students? I ask the position to rethink its proposal and comes up with a more flexible arrangement that considers the different needs of young students.
I call the youth member for Norwood.
Honourable Members of Parliament, I'm here today to emphasise the immense value of establishing homework clubs for our children. Homework is not only important but essential to a child's intellectual growth, thus implying it is an invaluable resource. Firstly, homework clubs provide a safe and structured environment, always supervised by teachers, offering critical academic support for students who may struggle with their schoolwork. Secondly, for children who may face challenges making friends, our homework club presents an opportunity to improve their social skills, build relationships, and possibly share knowledge with each other, creating a more inclusive and collaborative community. Thirdly, consistent attendance to a homework club helps instill time management skills in our young learners, a skill vital for their academic and professional success. In summary, I implore our government and community to consider the implementation of such clubs, providing our children with the support, guidance, and skills they need for a broader and more promising future. Thank you.
I call the youth member for Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on the opposition motion of internet use by students. Year 6 students do not have an internet curfew between 5 p.m. and 7:30 a.m. It is reasonable because most students in Year 6 have a bedtime past 5, and some of them do sport activities outside of their homes, and they need to contact their parents if something is wrong. In addition, some students use music or audiobooks to help them get to sleep. Also, banning internet use during these hours is unnecessary since parental controls can already restrict this by setting a timer on the app and setting a password so parents can unlock the device, but your kids can't. Problems that the opposition may use to convince you, such as searching inappropriate content, losing time with family and friends, and playing outside, can all be avoided with parental controls. Limiting screen time and not letting them see inappropriate content, and it is also the parents' job to monitor their children. Once again, this can be achieved through parental controls. Therefore, it is reasonable to see this curfew is not necessary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Nebo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak of a motion where a curfew will apply to all internet-connected devices for students in Queensland primary schools after 5 p.m. and before 7:30 a.m. This motion should be used for some students to stay back after school to use an internet-connected device for self-entertainment. This addiction will grow and will interfere with schoolwork, so this curfew should be applied to stop interference with schoolwork. On the likely occasion, there may be students using it for work, but on the other hand, 71% of children have electronic devices, so they shouldn't need to stay back anyway. To conclude my speech, another reason is to help. The health of the children would be affected, but these conditions may happen. Poor posture, repetitive stress injuries, eye strain, retinal cell damage, emotional and behavioural changes, etc. This is why we should have this curfew in action, for it will have a positive effect. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Cliffdale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In my opinion, it would be wrong for Year 6 students to attend homework club for 3 days a week. These students would miss spending quality time with their families and wouldn't be able to do evening chores at home. Chores are a way some students earn pocket money. If they can't do the chores, they won't be able to choose what they want to buy, and that would be disappointing. Therefore, the students would eventually get tired of school and won't be as enthusiastic to participate in schoolwork. Students would be less active on those particular days, which would increase obesity levels over time. Teachers would have to get extra hours and would get extra pay, which could possibly make things go up in price, which would affect the economy. Already, prices for food, petrol and housing are rising, so it would be hard for families to handle the expenses. Thank you for your time, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Pike.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am pleased to support the motion that Year 6 students must attend a homework program. It is to be facilitated by the school and must be for a minimum of 3 afternoons per week. This issue has come to my attention due to students not completing their required homework in their own time. Then they are expecting little to no consequences for their lack of dedication to their work. It must be compulsory for students who have not finished their homework to attend a homework program. It is proven that students need to revise what they have learnt during school hours at home, as it will solidify what they have learnt. This will assist them to access that knowledge when they have a test. A homework program will help students in their future because this knowledge that they learnt through completing their homework will be useful in future education. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Hazelwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on the opposition motion of internet use by students. I am against the internet motion that Year 6 students should attend a homework club 3 times a week outside school hours. School students are already attending well-educated schools 6 hours a day, 5 times a week. If the government creates a homework club, students will not have as much time to do outside sport or learn other interests such as music and art. These activities are very important for social and emotional well-being. Students achieve better in academics when they have a strong social and emotional well-being. Therefore, reducing these opportunities by making a homework club may not increase academic achievement by students. Year 6 students should not be forced to attend a homework club after school hours. Should this motion be passed, it would severely limit time for kids to just be kids, and this is important for their overall achievement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Pascoe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am pleased to support the motion that 20% of student work in Year 6 should be self-directed and completed online. The first reason why this would be useful for Year 6 students is that they will have the freedom to research topics that they believe will assist them in their learning journey and prepare them for new topics that may be presented to them when entering secondary education. This self-directed learning will also build students' confidence in computer literacy skills that they will be able to utilize throughout their schooling life and into their adult life, allowing them the opportunity to gain employment in jobs that focus on STEM. This self-directed learning will change the way students learn for the better. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Ironbark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The proposed curfew to internet-connected devices from 5 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. are well-intentioned but cause great concern. Students will be disadvantaged and their learning will decrease. Without internet-connected devices, they will not be able to complete homework or assignments that require online research or apps. Schools today use this technology to engage students. I fear that schools will revert to paper sheets and booklets, which is time-consuming, frustrating for families, and environmentally unfriendly. For these reasons, we should vote no to this bill, or your child, your family, and your voters will suffer the consequences.
I call the youth member for a land dealer.
Honourable Members of Parliament, I support the proposal that 20% of students' learning be conducted online and self-directed, allowing them to take charge of their education. I advocate for this innovative approach to education, one that I believe can benefit both students and our education system. Self-directed online learning enables students to learn at their own pace, accommodating unique needs and schedules. This flexibility will make education more accessible to everyone in a diverse and wide country. This level of customization self-directed learning provides empowers students to focus on interests, fostering a love of lifelong learning. This approach will also have financial advantages. It will reduce the cost of teachers and school fees, making education more cost-effective and sustainable for the long run. I urge this Honourable Parliament to consider and support this innovative and cost-effective approach for the betterment of our education system and the empowerment of our students and future. Thank you.
I call the youth member for Gillian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I oppose the motion that 20% or 1 day a week in Year 6 should be self-directed and completed online. In my opinion, learners won't get an explanation of whether they're right or wrong and how they got given that answer. A lot of students learn by talking about what they're learning every day. In class, they have the opportunity to talk to the teacher and desk friends to help them understand the question better. If they are online and working by themselves, they will miss learning some of their subjects, and students will have to skip a day of practice learning their new skill to do their online learning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Nicholson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I draw the attention of the House. My support goes to the motion of establishing a curfew to all use of internet-connected devices. Mr. Speaker, I am concerned about the mental health and safety of children that have been using internet-connected devices. Regarding the frequent use of devices nowadays, we must apply a curfew to limit any negative impacts towards education and children's well-being, and prevent the likelihood of increased addiction henceforth. A 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. device curfew must be established. Should the occasion occur in which this is not stopped, it will result in a severe impact on children's health and education. Regarding their health, erratically when children use online platforms or games, they could experience cyberbullying, which will develop anxiety. Furthermore, using a device for too long can cause negative eye and brain issues, which will reduce health and decrease activeness of children and can affect education, in which knowledge can decrease due to lack of studying and habit of laziness. Therefore, we must apply a curfew to enhance children's welfare. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Galloway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on the opposition motion of internet use by students. A curfew of internet and social media should not apply for all Queensland primary school students after 5 p.m. and 7:30 a.m. Students should be able to have access to screen time during these hours. Primary students require screen time for homework to improve their typing skills, play educational games, including mathematics, research information for assessments, and creating PowerPoints. Children may need to communicate through texting friends or significant adults in their life. Internet platforms assist everyone to stay connected with loved ones away from home and ask how they are going. Students can read ebooks online through library services, including software to improve their literacy skills, and save the family money as they won't have to buy books for their children. For these reasons, I oppose the opposition motion of internet use by students. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Howick.
Member for Howick. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Seth Gordon. Having to do 3 or more homework clubs each week is way too much. Reasons for my opinion are spending more time with family, less stress about homework, more time learning things outside of school, more time to relax and refresh our body, and more time to train for club sports. Another reason for doing 3 or more homework clubs each week is too much, because at home kids help do chores to look after things like animals and help our parents. For me as a 10-year-old, I like to do a lot of things outside of school, such as building Lego and playing with my friends. Other children like me have other hobbies like riding motorbikes or playing footy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Georgina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on the opposition motion of internet use by students. Grade 6 students should not have to attend a homework club 3 times a week. Many students have outside of school interests, activities, and are members of clubs such as karate, BMX, and Scouts. Students already have 6 hours of school, and some students enjoy time spent being a kid at the park, visiting a friend's house, or going home and cooking with family members. Alternatively, they may enjoy gardening at home after having the opportunity to garden at school. They have found they enjoy it. Furthermore, some teachers are mums, dads, or aunties, and they will be taken away from family time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Killarney.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak against the Shadow Minister's motion of applying a curfew for student devices connected to the internet. The internet is an important learning and communication tool. Primary school students need to have access to the internet after 5 p.m. to do homework. Many can't do it earlier due to after-school sports, attending care, or needing their parents' assistance. It's often harder for country students who may help on the farm, travel further, and could have poor internet speeds. Poorer families who may only have one internet-connected device would be disadvantaged. Furthermore, the internet is a communication tool and is how we stay in touch with our friends and family, such as though a Zoom call with a grandparent for a bedtime story. Also, it would be impossible to police and enforce such a policy, which is just another valid reason why a curfew on internet-connected devices for primary school students should not apply. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there any on the speaking list that haven't yet been called? The question is that the motion by the Youth Shadow Minister for Information Technology be agreed to. The question is that the motion moved by the Youth Minister for Transport be agreed to. So there seems to be so we'll stick to the first one, which is the motion by the Youth Shadow Minister for Information Technology be agreed to. Those with that opinion say aye. Aye. Those against say no. No. I think the ayes have it.
Divide.
A division has been called. Ring the bells. Because you're very prompt, we normally take much longer to get to the train late than that. Close the bars. The question is the motion be agreed to for which a division has been called. I call on the government whip to act as the teller for the noes and the opposition whip to act as the teller for the ayes. Will the government whip please advise the government votes for the ayes or nays?
The 58 noes, Mr. Speaker.
Will the opposition whip please advise the votes for the ayes or the noes?
31 ayes, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable youth members, the result of the division is noes 58, ayes 31. The division is resolved in the negative. Okay, now I just make a couple of quick comments before I hand over to the real Speaker of the House. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come along. I really appreciate the hard work people have put into their speeches. That was very interesting, and I think there's some merit in only having 1 minute to speak, because often in the chamber we get a lot longer and it can become a little bit not quite as interesting as your hard work was to listen to. So thank you all very much for your efforts, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come along and share in your learning about our democracy here today. I hope you've had a fun day, and I hope you've learnt something, because in 7 or 8 years you'll be choosing the government. So think about the things you've learnt while you're here and choose carefully. I shall hand over to the Speaker. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Mr Watts, our member for Toowoomba North. I call the Youth Leader of the House.
I move the House to now adjourn.
The question is that the House to now adjourn. I call the member for Harrow.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. As the youth member for Harrow, I draw the attention of the House to the need for more crossings around high school and state schools in the electorate. The community values the safety of the youngest members. One of the main concerns is children being able to safely walk to school around traffic. Students are supervised by trained adults or lollipop ladies at pedestrian crossings. They stop cars so that children can cross safely. In Harrow, children have been crossing unsafely at many places along the main roads. According to the latest AMI Crash Index, over a quarter of all road incidents in Australia occur in the afternoon around school pickup time. Supervised crossings near the school would protect students from being vulnerable to incidents. Motorists can then expect that all students are crossing in the same place and can look out for them. The community feel that with a more protected place for their children to cross, they will be more comfortable letting their children walk to school. How would you feel if someone you care about was seriously injured from crossing an unsafe road? Let's do something to avoid this. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
I call the youth member for Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I draw the attention of the House to road maintenance. Every day there's always accidents on the road because of potholes and poor grammatics. Because of this, people will get hurt and injured when they are going to work or school. If we don't fix this now, many incidents will happen. I believe that we need to allocate more funding to road maintenance. The roads surrounding Toowoomba are becoming dangerous to motorists. We need to be able to provide the public with safe conditions while travelling. A lot of these roads have not been upgraded in years. We have been having many complaints about poorly made roads, and we should be able to fix high-risk areas quickly and promptly with low impact on the drivers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Yarraman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As youth member of Yarraman, I would like to acknowledge the wonderful performance of our Matildas at the recent World Cup. A top 4 performance is outstanding, although the semi-final loss was heartbreaking. Over 1/3 of Australians' World Cup squad are Queenslanders. That was 10 out of 23 players. This is due to the Queensland Academy of Sport Development Program, and it may well be the secret to the Matildas' victory. I encourage the government to continue to fund this program and help supercharge high performance upcoming in the lead to the Brisbane Olympics 2032.
Thank you, youth member. Just a reminder to members to make sure you're getting close to the microphone so you can be heard by everyone in the audience today. I call the youth member for Stewart.
Honourable Members of Parliament, I want to address the cost of living crisis that is crippling our community. Energy bills in Queensland have surged by a staggering amount, while measures such as rebates have been flouted. The reality is the rebate was inaccessible for most middle-income workers, rendering the rebate useless. The inflation rate is spiralling out of control while average wage growth remains stagnant. Telephone bills, petrol costs, insurance are all increasing at alarming rates, leaving little money left in family budgets for necessities like food, let alone luxuries like excursions and camps. This is unsustainable for young families who are struggling to make ends meet. Rental properties are in high demand, pushing up prices and pushing out tenants. More people in our community grapple with homelessness, hunger and unemployment. The impact on children's health, education, well-being and future is unattendable. I implore the government to take swift and effective action to secure a cost-effective energy supply, alleviate inflation and support our families who are struggling. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As Youth Member for Ward, I would like to address the concerns of my community members due to the lack of public transport, particularly school bus transport. The current legislation regarding free and subsidised bus transport for school students is aimed at families living in towns or cities where walking to the nearest bus stop or school is easily achieved. For the constituents in my community, those who live within the designated 2.2 kilometre bus zone are unable to walk to school safely because this requires them to cross a major highway. The government has not put any thought into the safety of students or provided safe access to cross this highway. These parents apply for school transport via the bus and are knocked back because it is deemed they live within walking distance. I encourage the government to review this legislation and support all students to have access to safe transport to schools.
I call the youth member for Severn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, Honourable Ministers. As the member of Severn, I will be talking to you today about why healthcare should be free. Due to the cost of living crisis, healthcare is rising rapidly. Small things like the cost of a simple vaccination are no longer insignificant payments for millions around the world. Every year, healthcare costs are rising on an average of 5 to 7%, which equates to around an extra $100 to $120 per fortnight. For middle to low income earners, this is a daunting number. People around the world are having to give up essential medications because they are too expensive, which is cruel, outrageous and a disgrace to our government. Although Australians have access to free healthcare, it is crucial to provide more support and funding to this area to help relieve the out-of-pocket expense our citizens are forced to pay. Healthcare services are vital because they not only improve health but also help us live a healthier lifestyle by encouraging and educating people to quit smoking, eat nutritious foods and exercise regularly. Please take this into consideration as our citizens are struggling to stay afloat in this cost of living crisis and their health should not be put aside. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I now call the youth member for Kendall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am the youth member for Kendall and I will be discussing the cost of living and housing. The amount of people living on the streets in Toowoomba is more than 821 people. All of these lives matter, so help put them in jobs and create a better chance for Toowoomba's community to finally be one. From the year 2020 to the year 2023, inflation has increased by 5.26%. With inflation shooting through the roof, it is causing many families to experience significant pain and trouble, such as moving away from loved ones, jobs, and the place they call home so that they can afford to live. So if you had the choice to let inflation to increase, would you? I think not. So help. If a job opening comes up, the people proven most in need with some understanding will then be the first considered for the job. Help make Toowoomba a better place. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Staten.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'm going to share with the House information about how great of a school Darling Heights State School is. Darling Heights State School is a very diverse school. There are students from 41 different countries from around the world attending the school, like India, Malaysia, etc. Darling Heights State School also has multiple whole school activities, like Harmony Day, where the whole school dresses up in their traditional clothes and says hi in the language, and Book Week Parade, when staff and students dress up as their favorite book characters. The teachers there are nice and kind to do their best teaching us. Darling Heights State School also participates in multiple inter-school activities, like the inter-school chess tournament, Optimize, Stedford, and inter-school sport, which the member for Tully has talked about. Some schools have a unique way of hiring new leaders. One of those schools is Darling Heights State School, run by Mrs. Johnson. I would like to reinforce on how great Darling Heights State School is. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Suttor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am the member for Sutton, and today I will be discussing the need to protect Australian animals. I think we should protect all animals in Australia from fires because fires can be deadly and animals are important. Because like koalas, they are an endangered species because of the bushfires, and when a fire comes to the other animals, we should do the same so they do not end up like koalas. Because if a fire starts in your home and you live on a farm, you should run to the paddock, open the gate and let all the animals out. But if you live in a house with a normal backyard and your dog or cat is inside, take your dog or open the door to let the cat out. But if your dog or pet or animal runs 20 to 30 kilometers away, you should have a phone number on the collar or a tracker and plan for an emergency so we will be able to keep our animals protected. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I now call the youth member for Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I would like to share to the House my concern about the endangered native Queensland species, such as the northern hairy-nosed wombat. There are 76 endangered animal species in Queensland, and this concerns me deeply. Queensland is on the rate to become known as Australia's state with the highest rate of endangered species. I suggest that we give funding to the sanctuaries that take care of our endangered species and other native wildlife. If we did this, Queensland would be the best state in Australia, and it would also encourage more environmental action, which would solve other problems that we have today. Imagine a better Queensland with animals being released from Cape York down to Toowoomba. With the help of all the Queensland citizens, we could turn Queensland into a better place, not just for the animals, but for the people, plants and environment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Undalla.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'm here to discuss a few issues on Gannon Clifton Road. The road has many different problems needing repair before there is a major crash. Many people use this dangerous road, especially learners, which is the biggest part of my concern. I drive this road to school every morning and afternoon, and I believe I'm well placed to report on the dangers this road poses. So what are the problems? Let me share some of the shocking facts of the data I personally collected. In a 50-kilometre stretch, I witnessed 44 damaged areas such as potholes, fallen rocks and uneven road, including many that required avoidance. The biggest concern was in our category major, which were 3 areas where giveaway signs have a poor view of oncoming traffic, and you simply have to test your luck, such as Heather Creek Crossing 6. While collecting this data, we had 3 trucks come flying around a blind corner on a narrow section of the road, calling us to pull off with little warning so we weren't hit. This is not a great way to start my day, and unfortunately is not a rare occurrence. We have watched for some time as roadworks are completed along this road, and while our local council has poured funds into this, it is time for our state government to contribute to further repairs to ensure the safety of Queenslanders on the road. I hope that in sharing my experiences, some consideration will be taken as it is a very real risk, not only for me but for all the other drivers who use this road every day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to inform the House about the importance of electric vehicles and the need to switch to them. In this day and age, 96% of the population use non-electric vehicles. This is extremely unsustainable, and considering we are living in a time with many environmental concerns and worries, I believe we can do better. Electric vehicles are an excellent choice for several reasons. Firstly, they have a significantly lower impact on the environment compared to regular petrol vehicles, meaning they reduce air pollution, global warming, and rising sea levels. Secondly, electric vehicles can lead to long-term savings because there are lower fuel expenses. And finally, their advanced technology provides a smooth, quiet ride with newer and more modern features and controls which create a better, easier, and more relaxed driving experience. While they're expensive to buy at the moment, this price is due to decrease over time the more people purchase them. By switching to electric vehicles, we can make a positive impact on the environment, creating a more sustainable future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Maryvale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I draw the attention of the House to biodiversity loss. The definition of biodiversity loss is described as the loss of life on Earth at various levels, ranging from reductions in the genetic diversity to collapse of entire ecosystems. Biodiversity provides the backbone of the global economy. The rate of loss has rapidly increased in recent years, to the point where many scientists believe that the world is currently experiencing a sixth mass extinction. Previous mass extinction events saw the existence of dinosaurs wiped out completely, as well as the disappearance of more than 95% of all species living at the time. While biodiversity loss can occur naturally, biodiversity loss is a direct result of uncontrolled human activity since the Industrial Revolution. We can reduce it by bringing together work across Queensland to protect, restore and promote Queensland's biodiversity through regulation, science and research programs, restoration projects and much more. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Tullabudgera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I draw the attention to the House to the ongoing cost of living expenses and the difficulty this is causing when buying groceries. Rising inflation is affecting young, old and poor families, as well as singles, couples and the older generation. Another problem when purchasing products is that not all items are actually fresh. Chip packets are often chilled with air and meat is sometimes chilled with water. All of that is forcing families to spend more for less. Sometimes families can't even afford essential foods at all. I recommend to the ACCC Australia's Competition and Consumer Commission to support and provide a service where families, singles, couples and the older generation can buy goods and produce at a greatly reduced price. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Hull.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Magpies are native birds of Australia. They have a unique warble song, however are clever enough to copy surrounding sounds such as the sirens, doorbells, other birds and even the domestic animals. Their memory is very long. During the month of September through to December, they are a dangerous nuisance because they swoop while trying to protect their young. In my local area, there are school students being swooped as they line up for the bus every afternoon, which has resulted in more staff having to look after the students and even injuries. A local member in the Hull region recently sustained a broken arm and bruising to a large part of their body, as they attempted to evade a swooping magpie. Something needs to be done to keep our local members safe from these nuisances. Thank you.
I call the youth member for Tralee. Mic drop moment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I inform this House of biased referees in touch football. I am raising this issue because I have personal experience with this matter. During a touch football carnival over the weekend, the referees were favouring the opposing team, which led to them winning the grand final unfairly. When a referee favours one team over another, this causes players to be distracted by the poor officiating and feel like the game isn't worth playing. Unfortunately, no one can tell the referee what to do. During the grand final match, these were the feelings my team felt as the referee was biased towards the opposing team. This was demonstrated by inconsistent decisions and calls, the referee not paying attention to the game, and not pulling the opposing team up for rough plays that could have led to injuries. A solution to this is referees having to take a survey to ensure there is no conflict of interest and no bias in refereeing in touch football. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Densher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to speak on the important matter of homelessness. This issue is having a large impact in our country and in my local community. 167 people in the Lockyer Valley are homeless, desperate for basic needs such as food and shelter. The increase of homelessness in Queensland since 2017 has skyrocketed to 22%, compared to only 8% across the nation as a whole. Homelessness doesn't only affect people who have no place to call home, but each of us in the community. Homelessness can be caused by poverty, unemployment, lack of affordable housing, as well as poor physical and mental health. Surely our state government can do more to help those facing homelessness. As I appeal for assistance for those in the Lockyer Valley region, I urge you to please consider how we can help these people, because it is our duty to bring an end to this terrible situation. Together we can make a difference to how Queensland is safe. Thank you, Mr.
I call the youth member for Yilpilling.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I draw the attention of the House to soil degradation. Soil degradation is the decline in soil conditions caused by improper use or poor management. It is a serious environmental problem which can lead to species extinction and difficulty in growing crops and food. Soils are a fundamental natural resource and are the basis of all terrestrial life. Avoiding soil degradation is crucial to our well-being. It can be caused by the loss of organic matter, decline in soil fertility, and pollutants. As a result, the soil structure declines. The people of Queensland can reduce soil degradation by using conservation and tillage techniques, practicing crop rotation, avoiding over-irrigation, and putting back the trees to increase vegetation. As elected representatives of Queensland, it is our responsibility to encourage further research and positive action to reduce soil degradation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Macdonald region is a beautiful place full of flora and fauna, though the number of mosquitoes has been increasing around the region to the point diseases, such as the Ross River virus, are spreading. Ross River is a virus that can be spread by a mosquito bite infection. In addition, most people did not know they had the virus, so it was easily spread around the constituents. The council is trying their best to stop mosquitoes from continuously breeding. One idea is to encourage household owners to reduce unnecessary water sources in their homes because mosquitoes are attracted to stagnant water. Mosquitoes are a major concern to the Macdonald region, so help the council to exterminate mosquitoes to lessen the chance of deadly viruses spreading around the Macdonald region. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Tumbarumba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As youth member for Tumbarumba, I rise to speak on the motion of the fire ant outbreak in my electorate. Fire ants are different from other ants. Their stings are extremely painful because their venom is more poisonous and their pinchers are larger than other ants. Most, if not all people, have severe negative reactions from fire ant bites. The symptoms could range from vomiting, stomach cramps and nausea to trouble breathing and, in worst case scenario, life-threatening anaphylaxis. Fire ants often spread quicker when in contact with humans. They can spread through transportation of hay, turf, potted plants and machinery. Fire ants feed on local fauna and ruin industries like agriculture, can ruin our lifestyle and significantly impact our environment. In my electorate in Toowoomba, these ants have been spreading like crazy and are making it hard to live a normal life. Nobody wants fire ants in their backyard. They are dangerous. We need to act quickly and get these ants eradicated. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And I call the youth member for Zamia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'd like to share with the House reasons for compulsory school students. Compulsory sport is vital for young people. It helps everyone get to know each other, encourages teamwork and is part of a healthy lifestyle. Compulsory sport can include not just traditional team sports, such as indoor football, but also individual sports that have team aspects, including karate and swimming. Sport keeps you healthy and fit, which means you won't get sick as often, strengthens muscles, boosts self-esteem and self-confidence, leading to improvements in their everyday activities. It's good to be healthy because it controls your stress, makes a person feel good about themselves and they can live longer. When a person is healthy, they look better and feel better all the time, leading to be motivated to move and as a result are happier, thus making them love physical activity more. A healthy Queensland is a happy Queensland. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, youth member. Before closing the debate, is there anyone else who wishes to speak during the agenda debate has not yet spoken? I'll put the question to the House. The question is the House to now adjourn. Those of that opinion say aye. Aye. Those against, no? I know it's a lot of fun. We can stay here all day. I think the ayes have it. Youth members, just a couple of remarks before we officially close the Youth Parliament. Thank you very much for your participation. It's been wonderful to hear you speak today, whether it be on the motions or whether it be during the private members' statements or the adjournment. We got kicked off very well by both the Premier and the Opposition Leader, who did very, very good speeches which are outlining their vision for Queensland. So well done to both of you. I want to say that overall the quality of debate and the research you put into your contributions was excellent, and it's really great to see so many of you taking really seriously the opportunity that you've had here today, and we hope that this provides you with some I guess inspiration to think about other things you may do in your future. It's really important to remember though that you don't have to be an elected person to be a leader in the community. You can be a leader by showing a great example, leading by example. You can be a great leader by speaking up for others who maybe aren't able to speak up for themselves. You can be a volunteer with a local service organisation like Rotary or the Lions. And of course, you can just get involved if there's an issue you feel strongly about, maybe starting a petition to talk to people about why it's important to you. No matter what it is that you do, the idea of these youth parliaments is to get all of you here today, hopefully build up your confidence to speak in public a little more readily, and of course making sure you understand, I guess, the basic functions of Parliament, and we hope that you've been able to achieve that. Something that we did do today, of course, is have the activities on show in the other room, and that was an opportunity, obviously, once you've had your lunch or your morning tea, to be able to interact and look at a whole range of different things that you may not have considered before around how our democracy works in Queensland. One of them was really good because we know that we asked you to put on sticky notes what you would do if you were a Member of Parliament. I just thought I'd share a couple of these with you. There's too many to go through. But one student said, if I were a Member of Parliament, I would help people in need of resources. That's a very, very altruistic thing to do. If I were a Member of Parliament, I would end homelessness and become famous. Doesn't always work that way, unfortunately, but I like it. If I were a Member of Parliament, I would make a foundation supporting the movement of no more homework. And on that theme, if I were a Member of Parliament, I would introduce a new law for when students are in Year 6 or above that homework will not be a thing. And finally, I think a very serious issue, it's important. If I were a Member of Parliament, I would enjoy life. Kids, don't cheat at handball. So we heard in the adjournment speeches a range of different issues covered off: the cost of living, energy, homelessness, school transport and road safety, healthcare, emotional well-being, multiculturalism, animal protection. We heard about the Matildas, which obviously was heartbreaking. It's a shame to see they didn't quite make it right to the end. And also to impartial officiating or not at touch football. I try my best to be an impartial referee in here. That's all I can ever promise you. Look, finally, there are just a few people to thank. Firstly, I want to thank all of the parents and carers who've come along today to support your students. It's really important that they have that great backing, and obviously you take great interest in their education. I want to say thank you to the teachers who have done an amazing job helping all of the students bring their speeches together. Students, you may not think it now, but your teachers are really, really important people, and one day you'll look back and very fondly about the teachers you've had and what sort of a difference they've made in your life. So for our parents and carers and teachers, can we have a big hear here? Yeah! I also want to say thank you, of course, to you as students, but we've already done that. We did have some special assistance today from Jim McDonald, the member for Lockyer, Trevor Watts, the member for Toowoomba North, and Pat Weir, the member for Condamine. So I thank them, and if you can please do so with a hear here as well. And last but not least, this Youth Parliament doesn't happen by accident. A lot of people put lots of hard work into it. This is the first Youth Parliament that Kirsten from our education team has put together with the assistance of Maria, Rebecca and Grace. So if you could please say thank you to everyone. Thank you. And last but not least, again, really appreciate your opportunity or coming along to be at this Youth Parliament. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we will be back, maybe not next year, but certainly as soon as we can, because it's a great place to visit. We really enjoy visiting Toowoomba and the Darling Downs region, and we hope you have a safe travel home. Thanks very much.
Thank you.